Welcome to the Tea, Coffee, and Fantasy Sports Podcast. I'm Matthew.
I'm Jacob, and this is a place where we drink a lot of tea, we drink a lot of coffee, and we talk a lot about fantasy sports.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about our quarterback rankings.
Yeah, want to start at the top?
Yeah, so I have Mahomes at number one. He had a down year last year, but he's going to rebound a bit. And then his offense got better with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, I think everybody out there is going to agree that Mahomes and Jackson are the top two. I've seen most sites, this is just me, I've seen most sites have Lamar at one. Why would you have Mahomes at one? I have Mahomes at one too, just to clarify. I just want to hear your reasoning.
I don't know. I guess the reason why I'm at Lamar at two is that no quarterback has ever finished as quarterback one for 2 years in a row, and there's bound to be some regression from last year since his performance was just unsustainable. Specifically, his touchdown to completions ratio, I think, was like he threw a touchdown once every 8 passes, which I doubt he's gonna do that again. And now defenses know how to stop him because the Titans did that. So he's just not going to put up that great of a season as he did last year, and Mahomes is going to put up a better season than he did last year.
Yeah, and the part about the touchdowns, I don't think Lamar's going to throw for more than 30 touchdowns this year, quite frankly.
He threw for last year?
He threw for 38, or 36, I believe, which led the league. But with the number of pass attempts he threw, that, again, is just not sustainable. He will bring a high floor with the rushing, but honestly, what I'm most worried about with him is injury. With how much he runs the ball. I know it hasn't been an issue for him yet in his career. I'm just a little worried about it personally.
Yeah, I don't think he's injury prone at all, but I think that's definitely one of the factors why I would put Mahomes over him. Because Mahomes has a freak injury, and his play style doesn't really lead to him getting injured a lot.
Not as much as Lamar though. Mahomes, when you know you're taking the best quarterback in football, you feel good.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's 1A, 1B for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what value would be best for them, do you think?
Where they're going in the draft?
Yeah.
I think that's personally, right now in most of the mocks, I'm seeing they're going in the mid-second or early third rounds, which I think, even though they're that good, I think that's way too high for me. I would rather have an elite wide receiver or a good running back than both of those quarterbacks.
Yeah. Again, for me personally, I'd probably take the mid to late third round at the earliest, and that's if I feel really good about my first two picks.
Yeah, their Mahomes ADP is 17 and Lamar is 19, which is second round.
Yeah.
Which is really early.
Which in most drafts, you know that you're going to have a couple people who just get greedy for that top two quarterback and reach for them. And
I was in a draft where someone took Mahomes with pick 6 or something, which is insane.
Yeah, that's just too high. And especially with the quarterbacks who are coming up next in our list who are also just going to be incredible too.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that brings up the next tier. My quarterback 3 is Kyler Murray. Is he yours or?
Yeah, my quarterback 3 is also Kyler Murray. And if you're talking about upside, Kyler has as high upside as anybody, including Mahomes or Lamar. I think if you're talking upside, Mahomes, Lamar, and Kyler are in the same category.
Yeah, and I guess he was quarterback 8 last year, and you've seen Lamar and Mahomes that you've improved from your rookie year to your second year, so that's going to help him. And he got DeAndre Hopkins, which is going to be an insane help. And he's just the second best rushing quarterback in the league by a wide margin, which is rushing equals fantasy points.
Yes, and also just as a football player, Kyler is seriously incredible. He has a cannon for an arm. He, again, is probably the second most mobile quarterback behind Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. And now he got a top 3 receiver in the league for a bag of peanuts, essentially. And the offensive system they run, the air raid, is gonna just pad his stats even more. So
Yeah, he has so many weapons with like Drake and Hopkins and Kirk and Fitzgerald, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
yeah, it's and volume. I think they're gonna be passing the ball a lot
Hmm.
because air raid is in the title, which is probably to bring us to my fourth quarterback, Russell Wilson, is probably my biggest concern with Russell is because all the Seahawks do is run the ball.
Yeah, that's insane that like for a Hall of Fame quarterback, there's such a run heavy offense.
Yeah,
But my quarterback four is Dak. So last year I think he was the quarterback two. Um, and this year's offense only got better with CeeDee Lamb, which is another wide receiver. And I think the new coach, Mike McCarthy, is going to help him because, like, I don't know, at least in Green Bay, he passed the ball, I think, 59% of the time, which is a lot higher than average. So that's going to be more, I guess, volume for Dak. And I guess, I don't know, he has a pretty hard schedule and his offensive line is weaker, but I still think that puts him above Wilson personally.
yeah. With Dak, me personally, if I'm taking quarterback specifically, I want to be sure if I'm taking them there that they're a top 10 quarterback who will make magic happen no matter what. And Dak, I don't feel is there. And even with the system, Mike McCarthy, from what I've heard, McCarthy is gonna more leave the Kellen Moore system intact, so Dak doesn't have to learn an entirely new offense.
Where do you have him ranked as for your quarterbacks?
I have him at QB6.
Okay. But still is it in the same tier, I guess, as like Kyler and Russell?
Yes, and if I'm taking there, I really want the upside of an elite quarterback. Kyler has that. I don't. Last year, if it makes sense, was best case scenario for Dak.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I guess I put Wilson, I guess, after Dak at quarterback five, just because even though he doesn't have as much upside, he's just, I don't know, I like him because he's a super safe quarterback. He's finished top 10 every year. But then I guess, as you said, like it's a super rush central offense. So he's not going to have like QB3 numbers at all, where Dak could realistically have those numbers.
Yeah, Wilson is the safest quarterback in this grouping we have. He's just he's the second best quarterback in the league. He is a magician. Uh, we know how good he is, and he's got some pretty good receivers too. And deep ball threat Lockett and DK Metcalf, who
Insane.
is insanely talented. Just
Yeah. So my quarterback six, and I believe he's your quarterback five, then is Deshaun Watson.
yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for Deshaun Watson. I've drafted him basically since he's been in the league,
So is that 3 years now, or
3 years, I think. And honestly, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is going to hurt,
yeah,
but
I sorry,
I think he's just reached the point where he can elevate the play of those around him, and he'll still put up numbers even without Nuke Hopkins.
yeah, initially I had him as like my quarterback 8 or 9, but then I was just looking around and I found that without DeAndre Hopkins, like he had pretty good stats. It was like a 66% completion rate, and like that was ranked eighth in the league. In addition, like Brandon Cooks, they got back, and Will Fuller, like both stretch the field, which Hopkins doesn't do. He's more of a route runner. And I guess Watson's, I guess, super good in deep balls. And then I guess they also got an upgrade with David Johnson from who did they have last year? Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, they had Carlos Hyde and David Johnson. At this point, you don't know if he's going to stay healthy, but he will add that pass catching element if he is for sure.
I just think it's a super risky pick because there's a ton of unknowns with the best one of the best receivers just leaving the team.
True, they do have a bunch of deep ball threats. They added Brandon Cooks, which from someone who drafted him last year in the fifth round, I was immensely disappointed. And with the 20 concussions he's had, you don't know if this is his last year playing football. So I really like Hopkins with Cooks, but I don't know if Cooks is just going to play football again, you
Yeah.
know.
And those four quarterbacks, Murray, Wilson, Watson, and Prescott, they're in like the 53rd to, I guess, 64th ADP. Would you draft them there or not?
If I'm going to draft a quarterback there, I would take Kyler at that ADP just because of the upside. Everybody in quarterbacks wants the new Lamar, wants the new Mahomes. And this year, while he's not so much a sleeper, I feel the guy with that upside is Kyler.
Normally, I don't reach for quarterbacks, but if I'm in a situation where like the end of the sixth or like mid sixth and one of those four are still available, I think I'd take them. But otherwise, I really don't like getting quarterbacks that early.
Yeah, me neither. The only ones I'd really draft at that value were Kyler, and maybe I'll bring Deshaun Watson back for the fourth straight year.
Okay. And then I guess we're on to the next tier. My quarterback 7 is Josh Allen.
Yeah, same with me. Got a tier gap down below. He's got more weapons with Stephon Diggs, and John Brown was quietly one of the what did he finish as last year?
I think it was like wide receiver 25 or 29, but he was definitely top 30.
Yeah, he was secretly good last year as a deep ball threat with Allen's cannon arm, and he brings a decently high floor with his mobility. So,
Yeah,
do you think he could get better than he was last year though? How much better?
I don't know because on one hand, he had 9 touchdowns last year, rushing touchdowns, which is really hard to replicate. But then on the other hand, he's bound to improve from like his accuracy, which was super bad last year. And he's getting Stephon Diggs, who's a great wide receiver. So I don't know, I think maybe he can improve, but I don't really see him breaking into the next tier of quarterbacks.
Yeah, me neither. Just because he's not, I wouldn't say he's a top 20 quarterback in the league, which all the other guys you mentioned before are top 20 for sure.
And I've
And
heard reports that the Bills may not even consider him their franchise quarterback.
yeah, that's not for sure. I think he's best used when he doesn't have to throw the ball 40 times a game, almost like similar to how the Seahawks use Russell Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
where they run the ball a lot to minimize Allen's mistakes. And then when they bring the defense up, they can have Allen just show off his arm strength and hit John Brown 60 yards deep or something.
Personally, I really like where he's going in drafts, though, because he's going super late, like later than quarterbacks like Breeze or Ryan or Brady and Rodgers. So, like, I get him most drafts in like the 11th round, which I think is a really great value for a top 10 quarterback.
Oh, definitely. And if I don't get Kyler and I don't want to reach for Deshaun, I would feel very comfortable with waiting and taking Josh Allen after some other guys reach for Brady, uh, Breeze, or Rogers, you know. So,
I would definitely, though, get a backup quarterback because Allen's pretty risky, I think.
yeah, and he does have risk just because he's not anything more than an average quarterback right now.
Yeah.
So that could scream regression right there.
So, my quarterback 8 is now Carson Wentz.
Actually, same as mine. So, and Carson Wentz is, you rarely see him get brought up as just an amazing quarterback, and which I really think he is.
Yeah, like last year he had injuries to like his entire wide receiver core. Like Jeffrey was hurt, Whiteside was hurt, Deshaun Jackson was hurt, and like no wide
Yeah,
receiver finished more than 500 yards. Yet he still finishes the quarterback 10. So like now that everyone's back and they draft Jalen Rager, he's gonna have pretty high upside. I think personally.
yeah. Getting Deshaun Jackson back and adding Jalen Rager, who could be the next Deshaun Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
will add those deep threats that the Eagles desperately needed last year. They could barely push the ball downfield with.
I remember they signed Greg Ward to be their wide receiver one week.
Yeah, yeah, I think was he their wide receiver one for the last month of
Yeah,
the
they signed him
season.
from the practice squad, and then he started like 3 days later, and they had like Josh McCown suiting up or something.
Yeah, he was next in line.
Yeah, I got
And
bad.
yeah, and well, Wentz has Zach Ertz. Ertz won't really stretch the field. He's I mean, no, most tight ends won't stretch the field like an elite wide receiver will do, unless your name is George Kittle.
I think though Carson kind of has an injury risk. Like he's injury prone, and they drafted Jalen Hurts because they know that. So like, out of all these quarterbacks that we've listed, he probably has the biggest chance of going down with an injury.
I feel Carson. I mean, while he is injury prone, I'd still say he has gotten unlucky
Yeah,
with it being at the end of the season more than anything, because in 2017 torn ACL he missed the playoffs. 2018 back issues he missed the playoffs, and last year was not really even his fault. I'd argue with a questionable hit by Jadeveon Clowney.
I'm on a website called Sports Injury Predictor, and it says that he has a 92% chance of getting injured in 2020, which
Ooh,
is quite high among quarterbacks.
yeah, I
That's
think.
yeah, that's the highest among quarterbacks.
Wow. I mean, I think that if you're not taking one of the top 6 quarterbacks, you would want at least a backup. You
Mm.
may want to invest in a Derek Carr, somebody who you know is just going to start 16 games and put up average numbers.
My quarterback 9 is Matthew Stafford, which is maybe a bit of a surprise.
That maybe my number 9 quarterback is a man who is very near and dear to my heart, Aaron Rodgers.
I have him much lower, but I can talk about that later. But the reason why I like Matthew Stafford was before his injury, he was on pace for 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, and he's gonna be the quarterback 4. But like, even though regression may still occur, he's gonna have like the best skill positions ever with Galladay, Jones, Amendola, a healthy Hawkinson, Swift, and Kerryon Johnson. So like, I think that's gonna offset, and he could very well be a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. Stafford was incredible last season before he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny Galladay is an absolute stud. And I really think Kerryon and DeAndre Swift will give Stafford 2 running back passing targets, which will help. His receiving core isn't very young outside of Kenny Galladay, but they added Quintez Cephas from Wisconsin in the draft, and I think Cephas could be pretty good.
I read the stat that the Lions receiving core, I'm pretty sure was the only one in the league that had 3 receivers with over 600 yards, which is pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah, and Stafford will spread the ball around, but Galladay will probably get most of the targets. And Stafford is just pretty underrated, and I honestly might have him too low where I have him.
Where do you have
And
him right now?
I have him as my quarterback 12, and I might have Rodgers too high,
Yeah,
but at
Rodgers.
his ADP, I still wouldn't draft him most of the time.
Yeah, Rodgers' ADP is 89, which makes him quarterback 8 going off the board, which is way too high personally.
That's
Currently, yeah, I have him as my quarterback 14.
ooh, yeah. I'm almost reconsidering moving Rodgers down because I just don't really feel good about his production
Yeah, my
with the fact that the Packers somehow didn't draft a wide receiver unless their plan is maybe Jordan Love can play slot receiver.
yeah,
But
my reasoning for Rodgers being so low was that there's no weapons except for Adams. Like he's not going to decline, but he's just not going to break out anymore. And my main point was that he's just super, super inconsistent. Like one week he'll drop 40, and then the other week he'll drop like 6. He was ranked as the 30th most inconsistent, or 30th least inconsistent, or 30th least consistent player quarterback in fantasy, which is really worrying. And I would avoid him at that point.
yeah, because the way to beat the Packers last season was stop the run and double Adams. Because, and this is part of the reason why the Niners were such a nightmare matchup for my team, the Packers,
Mm-hmm.
last season. They had an amazing defense. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner to stop the run, and Sherman could handle Adams without letting Rodgers and Adams take over the game. And after that, who else is stepping up? The the corpse of Jimmy Graham. Come on, just
I don't think he's just at the position to take over games as much as he did a few years ago.
not as much.
Yeah,
It's hit. Those games are probably might be getting fewer and further between with age, and which and yeah, that I mean, as a Packers fan, it's tough to admit, but if Adams, if Adams gets a decent matchup, because I feel Rodgers' production is tied to Adams now at this point.
for sure. So I think Adams is quarterback proof. I think he's done pretty well without Rodgers in the few games.
I mean, when they had Hundley a few years ago, Adams' production, well, it took a dip because Hundley's not much more than a backup quarterback. Adams was still a productive receiver.
Yeah. My quarterback 10 is Drew Brees. Is he there for you or?
I have Breeze as my 11. I have Ryan at 10.
Yeah, I had Brees at 10, Ryan at 11. I felt you could swap them, honestly.
Yeah, I'm just a little cautious about drafting quarterbacks over the age of 40,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I'm lower on Breeze and Brady for that reason.
Yeah, so I guess what I think about Brees is that he's unvolatile. Like he's not going to have a bad season unless he gets injured, and then he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. And for the first time in his career, or in a long time, he has a wide receiver too, and Emmanuel Sanders, and like Alvin Kamara is going to be healthy again too, which is going to be good.
That'll really help. I don't think Breeze can really stretch the field as much as he used to, but that's not how that offense really operates.
I'm pretty sure
And
it's like he's thrown one pass of more than 30 yards in the past 3 years.
really,
Yeah,
well, wow, but yeah. And Matt Ryan, who almost plays like Drew Brees at this point in his career, is I feel is also one of the safer options in the draft with a healthy Julio Jones.
Mhm.
I don't know if he's going to break out like he did when he won MVP like 4 years ago, but he's a guy I'd feel comfortable taking later in the draft. If I miss out on Kyler or Allen, I can wait for Matt Ryan if he's still there.
Something that's really interesting about Ryan is that whenever he has a down year, he follows that up with an elite fantasy year. So like 2015, he was quarterback 19, and then 2016, he was quarterback 2, and then 2017, he was quarterback 15. 2018, he was quarterback 2. So like he had a down year in 2019. History says he should have a really good year again.
The odd year even thing, yeah, you could, yeah, that.
And like the offensive line was terrible last year, but they fixed it this year, and they got Gurley, who's like he's good, I think personally.
I'm almost terrified of Gurley just because of the whole arthritis thing. But if
Yeah,
Gurley's healthy, that'll help.
yeah. My quarterback 12. I know you said he's lower, but it's Tom Brady. So I for a long time thought Brady was washed and just not the same Brady anymore. But then looking at his stats, he's never been below quarterback 15 in like 5 years. And he had a terrible receiving core last year. His best wide receiver was Julian Edelman, and that's it. And now he has like probably the best receiving core in the league with Godwin and Evans and Gronk. And now he has a good quarterback coach. I think realistically he could be top 10 potential just because I don't know, just all the opportunity he has.
Yeah, I agree with definitely Brady has more upside than in years past just because new team, new situation, Godwin, Evans. I don't think Gronk is going to be as half as good as he used to be,
Mhm.
but then again, his chemistry with Brady will I think it'll be pretty valuable. And my biggest concern with Brady, actually, I have him as my quarterback 15, is that Arians' system has historically caused quarterbacks to throw career highs in interceptions.
Is that are you just basing that off of Jameis Winston or other
In the
people?
first year in their system, not just Jameis, but also Carson Palmer. And if I look back, let me check Peyton Manning's stats with his first year in Bruce Arians. It's a difficult offense to learn. That's my concern. And it's a playbook that's apparently twice as dense
Mm.
as the normal NFL playbook.
Anyone can learn it, though, it's Brady, though. Like, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
When he joined up with Peyton Manning in his rookie season in '98, and I think I remember Peyton Manning threw for 20-something picks that year.
I think he set the record for interceptions in a season.
Who? Jameis?
Manning set it that year.
Oh yeah, and also you have Jameis's 30-30 season under Bruce Arians. Well, I think it's just a mix of when you mix just it's just I don't know, when you mix acids and bases or something in chemistry class, it's gonna go badly.
Who is your quarterback 12?
I have Matthew Stafford here.
Okay, and yeah, I had him much higher, or a little bit higher. But what was your reason for putting him that low or lower?
I mean, upside is kind of a little thing with Stafford. I just don't know if he'll get better than he was on pace to be last season. Mm-hmm. And because I remember, even though he was great last year, the year before he was strangely bad. Like,
yeah,
he finishes. I'm sure he finished outside quarterback 20 that season.
He finished as quarterback 20 exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was his worst year ever in his entire career.
Yeah.
But I guess one thing to keep in mind with him is outside from 2 years, 2018 and 2014, he's been quarterback top 10 every single year for 6 years.
Ooh.
And that's like 5, 9, 7, 9, 7, 7, which is kind of impressive.
Yeah. I'm also more concerned about I know he's got some help at the skill positions, but just the surrounding core and coaching staff and voodoo of the Lions.
Yeah.
With Matt, this is Matt Patricia's last year, by the way.
So what did you say?
This is Matt Patricia's last season.
Just because how bad they are?
Yeah. I'm almost worried that he's going to get fired mid-season and Stafford's going to have to learn a new offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be rough for Stafford. But I believe him, hopefully.
Yeah. I might have Stafford too low, but he's definitely one of the more underrated value picks, because if Stafford is the best quarterback on the board, then you know for sure Rodgers, Ryan, Breeze, all the above are gone. So
his ADP is 108, which is the 9th, 8th round, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, I have a tier gap here, and my quarterback 13 is Daniel Jones.
I have him as my quarterback 14. Mm-hmm. He showed some real nice flashes last season, but the fumbling issues, how many fumbles did he have last season? I'm looking that up.
He had 18 fumbles.
That cannot continue.
That's a fumble every 45 snaps.
Yikes. And keep in mind, he only played 13 games. He's only played 13 games.
Mm-hmm.
No, he actually, one game he played garbage time. He only started 12 games, played them fully, and he still had 18 fumbles.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like Jones a lot. If he played full 16 games last year, he would run for 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, which is pretty good. And I guess, fumbling's an issue, but there's no way he can't improve. And I got Andrew Thomas, which should help. And I guess he finally has a healthy wide receiver core. I don't think last year Barkley, Slayton, Tate, Ingram, and Shepard all missed time. So they're all going to be together this year, which is nice.
I'm much less optimistic about Daniel Jones's fumbling problems going away if he doesn't have a really good offensive line, because he's almost oblivious to pressure when he plays. You'll see someone breaking free and he just won't see it. He'll get strip sacked and fumble. I saw that way too many times last season. I'm less optimistic that he's going to rectify that next year.
My only downside with him is that he has a super tough schedule. Like to start off the year, he has Pittsburgh, then Chicago, then San Francisco, then LA, then Dallas. So like, I don't know.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal. If
You play three of the best, maybe the three of the top five defenses in the league to start the season. And just, if he just, I mean, if he loses his confidence, then it could start a downward spiral for the rest of the season.
like if you draft him, I would for sure draft another quarterback to start those weeks because it's going to be rough.
Yeah, definitely.
So QB 14, I mentioned this earlier. I had Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. My QB 13 actually, I had Drew Lock.
Okay, explain. I know you have a fascination with him. Explain why you have him so high.
The fantasy upside, his upside could creep into the tier of Russ and Deshaun Watson, just with all the weapons he has, him being a second-year quarterback. We've seen these second-year quarterbacks take ridiculous leaps before, and Drew Lock, again, might be close to that guy this season.
I'm a Broncos fan. I think that's a stretch because, like, even though, like, in the 4 games, even though the Broncos went 3-1, he wasn't really flashy. He strikes me more as a game manager or like a leader who gets the job done, rather than someone who's going to light up the stat sheet every year. And he doesn't have much rushing upside at all either.
I think Drew Lock, at least Drew Lock can move and like move around, not like whatever Peyton Manning or Brock Osweiler or like that. And I think I really like his trajectory, the growth he showed over the season, progressing from his college to his the 5 games he played last season, to him potentially taking another leap and just going off. And the weapons he has are ridiculous.
It's probably one of the best offensive casts in the league.
He has Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, who won't just help on the ground game. They'll be good pass catchers as well. It'll probably be a 2/3, 1/3 split.
Yeah,
from what I can tell. And he has Cortland Sutton, who is an absolute beast. Jerry Jeudy, who I really think Jerry Jeudy is Amari Cooper. He's Devontae Adams. He's that good.
Yeah, I've seen videos of him in practice. He's just burning like Justin Simmons, who's an all-pro safety.
Yeah, he's one of the best route runners out of college that I've ever seen. And he just pops whenever you watch Alabama. And that's watching Alabama when they have maybe 8 or something future pros on their roster on one side of the ball.
I had Drew Lock. I agree. I share a lot of the same sentiments, but he's my quarterback 21.
Ooh.
Just because I don't know if he's going to make the leap, and like he's just too much of an unknown for me to draft.
I would agree I wouldn't, as much as I love Drew Lock, I wouldn't take him as my quarterback one.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably pick him up later. I could take Ryan, who's a safe option, maybe not the highest upside, and then a guy like Drew Lock. If you're talking about QB2 sleepers with upside, Drew Lock I really think has the potential to go off, and that you cannot pass that up in the late rounds.
Happens. So who's your quarterback 14?
That was Daniel Jones.
Okay. And you talk about, I guess, the fumbling issues and everything.
You almost treat them like interceptions, and he had 30 turnovers last season. Which, think of another quarterback who had more than 30 turnovers last season, Jameis Winston.
You lose points if you fumble, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah. My quarterback 15 is Joe Burrow, which could be a bit high, but I think he could finish his top 10 realistically. That's my hot take. Joe Burrow will be a top 10 quarterback.
Ooh.
So I guess he had probably the greatest college season of all time. And like the LSU system, it's pretty pro style, so it's not going to take much of adjusting. And usually when like early quarterbacks drafted, they go into super bad situations. But I think he's in a pretty good situation. He has like lots of weapons, with, like AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, John Ross, and Joe Mixon. And there's a bad defense, which means there's gonna be a lot of shootouts. And we've seen with Kyler and Dak that quarterbacks year one could be good.
Yeah, and with Joe Burrow, I love Joe Burrow. I'm not sure how much I love him fantasy. That cast, I'm not sure how healthy AJ Green's going to be. If he's healthy, he's a top 10 receiver, but that's still an unknown for me.
I don't know. I think he got hurt recently. Yeah, he got hurt.
Yeah. And as polished as he looked coming out, I'm sure he'll still go through some growing pains. Mm-hmm. He'll have a couple rough games. And that offensive line for Cincinnati is really, really bad. It's horrendous. And Joe Burrow has shown to not necessarily need a great offensive line to succeed, but it's not so great if he's running for his life the entire time.
Yeah.
I have Burrow as my quarterback 20.
Oh, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, but I think if you're talking upside,
mm-hmm.
if you're talking quarterback 2, where I would draft him, Burrow's close to Drew Lock as a guy who I would take as a quarterback 2.
Mm-hmm. I don't think any of these guys from probably Jones on, I wouldn't want starting for me at all.
Yeah, no. If you want quarterback 2, you want upside, then you can maybe trade a King's ransom for say Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. If you have Drew Lock who can fill in and is playing almost as well.
Who is your quarterback 15?
Tom Brady.
Oh yeah, you kind of explained, I guess, that the hard playbook is going to limit him.
To be fair, I think 15 might be the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I feel like I'm basically done at this point. At this point, I've just accepted we're never going to see Brady fall off a cliff. He's just going to play until he's 70 years old, and that's that.
Make Super Bowl every year.
Yeah.
So my quarterback 16 is Jared Goff.
My 16 is Baker Mayfield.
Okay, yeah, I have him a few spots lower. But what I like about Goff is that last year he had his worst year ever. He had a super tough schedule. But over the last 5 games, he had 329 yards per game and 11 touchdown passes. And he throws the most. He's been, for the past few years, has had the most throws in the league, which is going to continue, especially with the loss of Gurley. So he's going to have tons of volume. And he has a really good receiving core, I think, with Kupp, Woods, Higbee, and Everett. So I think he's probably going to have a better statistical season, which is going to lead to more points.
I think so. Goff, he's kind of like a baby Matt Ryan, where he's got a ton of physical talent, but what's worrisome is that he can't really move, and he has a bad offensive line.
That's true.
I think McVay is best though when he can get Woods and Kupp running on crossing routes, and I think Woods and Kupp are really just great receivers in general.
Where do you what made you put Baker as quarterback 16?
I think some of that is carried over from the hype of last season and Baker's rookie season. I think Baker's got upside as quarterback too.
Mm-hmm.
And since his disastrous 2019 season, he has said the right things. He said he's going to put his head down and work instead of running his mouth all the time. And maybe he can work with Odell and Jarvis Landry better this season.
Yeah, I put Baker as my quarterback 18, and there's no question he's going to improve, with a better coach now, and he can have a better offensive line. But then I forgot is it Kubiak who's your new head coach or no?
It's Kevin Stefanski, and they run.
Yeah.
It's a run. They'll be a run heavy team,
and that's why they got the fullback from the Brown, Janovich, and they also got Austin Hooper. So I don't think there's a lot of passing upside from Mayfield. He's more of a solid backup than a legit starter.
Yeah, I don't think Baker's going to be asked to throw the ball 40 times a game. They're going to run the ball for some reason they didn't run the ball last year with Nick Chubb, which was bizarre.
Yeah.
Because whenever they did run the ball, they won the game. But anyway, that's Freddie Kitchens. Kevin Stefanski will run the ball, and while Baker may not get the attempts for a huge breakout, I think he'll be efficient on those play action shots where he looked really comfortable with those.
I think he was like the 7th best quarterback in play action last year, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, and just yeah.
So my quarterback 17, because Baker's my 18, and maybe a surprise, but this is if he starts Cam Newton.
You have him as you're what?
Quarterback 17.
If he starts, and it's tough for me to weigh the risk of taking Cam because he looked. I don't think we've seen Cam at full healthy in a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to draft Cam at all because I don't know if he's going to start. I don't want to waste a pick on that. But then on one hand, he's never finished healthy lower than a quarterback 5 because of his insane rushing ability. But then on the other hand, he's kind of injury prone. He's had a lot of injuries to his ankle and his shoulder, his throwing shoulder, which is rough. But then, I don't know, he's Bill Belichick too, which is going to help him. He's just, I don't know, he's super risky.
Yeah, for sure. But if Cam returns to the Cam we saw at the start of 2018, I think he's obviously the starter. And we'll get to this later, but I do like Stidham though.
Yeah,
if Cam's not healthy.
I've seen videos though in practice of them throwing together, and Stidham has been overthrowing his receivers, and Cam's been getting bullseyes.
Yeah.
Who's your quarterback? Or sorry, what were you saying?
No, my quarterback 17 is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you like about him?
I really think I think he's got Kyle Shanahan as his play caller. While the Niners will run the ball more than any team in the league except the Baltimore Ravens, it's a similar offense to the one the Rams run with a lot of play action boots and moving pockets. Mm-hmm. And plus he has the reincarnation of Rob Gronkowski to throw to, Deebo Samuel, and I really feel good about Garoppolo because he's got one of the best play callers in the game.
Mm-hmm. I have Jimmy G as quarterback 23, but I think honestly that might be a little too low for him because like last year he finished as quarterback 14, but then I don't know, he's in a running first offense which limits his upside. Yeah. And then in addition, he lost Emmanuel Sanders. Deebo Samuel is out for who knows when, and then Jalen Hurts just got hurt too. So like, I don't think the passing offense is going to be as good as last year.
Yeah, if you're talking safe backup option at QB2, as sort of a handcuff for a more risky quarterback, you took like Josh Allen. That Jimmy G is that to me, but I would not ask him to start because, like I said, he doesn't have a ton of upside. He's not going to throw the ball a lot. So his production is dependent almost entirely on efficiency.
Yeah. My quarterback 18, I guess I've already talked about this, was Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. Yeah. My quarterback 18 is Kirk Cousins.
Oh.
I have Garoppolo, Cousins, and Goff. They're almost going to have the same seasons to me because they play in the same offense, literally the same offense. They're not going to throw the ball a lot. They'll be running a lot of play action shots, throwing to talented receivers because Cousins still has Thielen, and they stole Justin Jefferson somehow. Yeah.
Do you know where I have Kirk Cousins?
Oh, where?
Quarterback 27. I don't know. He performed horribly the last few weeks without Diggs. Let me try to pull up his exact stats. But yeah, he had 18 points, 13 points, 10 points, and 7. The 4 weeks Diggs was hurt. And then Justin Jefferson, he's been doing terribly in training camp. He doesn't really even replace Diggs at all because, like, he's a field stretcher Diggs and Jefferson isn't. So, like, they're going to miss that field stretching ability, which has helped Adam to lean in without Diggs. I don't think he's going to be that good anymore either.
Yeah, Thielen's probably getting up there in age. And yeah, again, Kirk Cousins won't have high upside. And all you need, all a team needs to do to beat the Vikings is have one or two decent pass rushers.
Yeah.
Because if you get pressure on Cousins when the lights turn on Monday, he just completely, falls apart.
Sometimes Cousins is not good.
Yeah, because for to expand on that, for years, even when Kirk Cousins was on the Washington team, he routinely carved up the Packers,
Mm-hmm.
even in prime time, which was humiliating. But that was before the Packers signed the Smith brothers. And once they did, Kirk Cousins was abysmal the 2 games we played against them last season.
So my quarterback 19, I had him a lot lower, but I guess I moved him up a little bit, was Ben Roethlisberger.
I
Um,
have Big No, go ahead. Sorry. I have Big Ben as my quarterback 22.
Yeah,
I
I
have
had him originally. But I don't know, I guess his last full season, he was quarterback 3 and he led the league in passing yards, but I guess of course he had Antonio Brown and now he doesn't.
yeah.
The major I think he had Tommy John surgery. So
Yeah.
like I don't know if he can come back to some of that form, he'll be a good quarterback. But there's so much risk involved, I guess, in him.
Yeah, I have a really bad feeling about Big Ben just in his whole injury, the Tommy John surgery. He's a massive risk,
Yeah.
but as an upside quarterback too, who you can just take a flyer on, he's fine. And if he doesn't work out, if he gets injured, so what? You can just drop him and pick up Derek Carr off
I
the waiver wire.
yeah, I'm looking at his ADP, and that's 128, which compared to like Burrow is 140, Garoppolo's 150, same as Cousins. So like, I would rather have. I mean, I wouldn't have Cousins, but I would rather have Garoppolo or Burrow, who's safer than Roethlisberger.
Yeah, and Big Ben, I just don't think both at his age and with the surgery, I don't think he's going to have the arm strength to stretch the field like he did with AB. I think he'll probably be closer to what we saw Peyton Manning in his last Denver days, although
That's
probably maybe a little better without the noodle arm, without the complete noodle arm yet. But
I remember in one game he had like 4 completions of 4 interceptions.
yeah, that was also. I think that was also the game he broke Favre's
Yeah,
all-time record.
he's still at like a negative something passer rating.
uh, yeah,
So my quarterback 20, maybe too high, but Ryan Tannehill. From week 7 on, he was the second best quarterback. But of course, there's probably gonna be regression. I'm pretty sure only 50 quarterbacks in history had his touchdown completion ratio. So like that's gonna go down, which means less fantasy points. And then also he's just injury prone in general.
yeah, he's in a great scheme, almost again the similar zone run heavy scheme that uh, Garoppolo, Cousins, and Goff are all in. I think Tannehill will be a similar, have produced similar numbers, but like you said, regression is going to hit him. That borderline legendary efficiency just probably will not repeat itself.
And I
And if if Derrick Henry gets slowed down, then Tannehill's just going to have to throw 40 times a game, and I don't think that's going to be great.
who's your quarterback 20?
I have Burrow there.
Okay.
I He might be going a little high. I just don't feel great about the Bengals surrounding core, and we don't know if Zach Taylor is a good coach.
Mm-hmm. So my quarterback 20 was Drew Lock. You have him much higher, but I don't know what to think of him as a fan. I don't know if I'm biased on him or anything, but
I again with Drew Lock, he has all the physical tools of a franchise quarterback.
yeah.
He he plays instinctive. He's plays like a gunslinger, and I'm sure he'll make mistakes. And while I have a fascination with Drew Lock, there is a chance that he isn't that he could become just Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
if you're taking the floor of Jay Cutler with a top 6 quarterback upside as your QB2, I just don't see how you can't pass that up.
I think he'll be like a player who's better in real life than fantasy, honestly.
I could see that. A similar case with Carson Wentz.
Yeah. Like some of his
With
best traits and his like his leadership and his confidence that doesn't translate into fantasy.
True. And the Broncos might run the ball more with Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think will be better for his efficiency
Mm-hmm.
still, but
So my
yeah.
next quarterback may be a surprise. It's Tyrod Taylor. Where do you have him?
I have Taylor paired with Herbert as quarterback 30. That's just because I just don't think either of them are going to start most of the season. I think probably Tyrod Taylor for the first 6 games.
Yeah.
And then they'll put Herbert in there to see what they have in him.
So I think, I don't know. I put Taylor lower just because he wasn't start. I don't know if he's going to start the entire season, but I think, here's a hot take, that if Taylor, like in the games Taylor plays, he's easily going to be a top 15 quarterback. Just because the last time Taylor started a full season, he put up quarterback 9 numbers in Buffalo. With the same, I think, offensive coordinator. He had the 31st worst pass protection, and he had terrible wide receivers. He has rushing upside, which is always good. And then now in San Francisco, he has like Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, and Hunter Henry. So like he has a ton of targets. And I think he's like top 10 numbers maybe in the games he starts.
Yeah, Taylor, I think you brought up that he really has a sneaky high upside for when he starts.
Mm-hmm.
And just his rushing, I'm sure his rushing will really increase his value.
So he's kind of like, I don't know, he's kind of like Josh Allen, where he's not as good in real life. So like, if he's going to begin to lose games, you're going to put Herbert in most likely.
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly. If they're 2-5, and the 8 Chargers fans in the world just start clamoring for Justin Herbert, and which, by the way, since we're on Tyrod Taylor, I might as well talk about Justin Herbert. I really don't think he's going to be that good, just for the record.
Why is that? In fantasy or in real life as well?
In real life, mostly. In fantasy, I think he'd be a better option than he would be in real life, if that makes sense, because he is pretty mobile.
Mm-hmm.
But in Justin Herbert, you're getting a guy I think you're drafting a guy similar to Tyrod Taylor with a cannon for an arm, obviously, but he reminds me so much of Mitch Trubisky. He didn't develop at Oregon. He completely panics when he comes off of his first read.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I remember in the Rose Bowl watching him. The only reason why he won is he had 3 rushing touchdowns, which is like, you can't sustain that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And for those of us who are going to call us salty Wisconsin fans, I mean, Justin Herbert running the ball scares me, but when he dropped back to pass, I was like, what is he going to do?
Yeah, it wasn't good, his passing ability.
Yeah. He also, this is almost a Josh Allen thing too. He was shockingly inaccurate.
Oh yeah, I think it was like, what was his accuracy percentage? I could look it up, but
his completion percentage, I wouldn't go on that because I'm not joking. A quarter of the passes he threw were screens.
Jeez.
I know he probably had a decent completion percentage, but a quarter of the passes he threw were screens. But on way too many short throws, he would just miss. So if you're talking dynasty, I wouldn't touch Justin Herbert.
Honestly, I would have Love over him.
Yeah, I think Herbert will probably be better in the first couple years because Herbert will actually get some playing time. But in my prediction, in 2 years, when the Packers trade Rodgers to the Bears and Love becomes the starter, I think Love is just going to present both a higher upside and is just going to be better. I had a second or third round draft grade on Justin Herbert.
Oh, wow. Who's your quarterback? 22 are we on?
I'm at 20. I'm still on my 21. I had the mustache Minshew at 21. He is great when the play breaks down. He worked really well with DJ Chark last season, and he was a pretty solid QB2, almost in a Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of way on a team that's going to be bad this season. But he'll sling the ball around, do some fun things. So I think he's just a solid QB2.
I put Minshew as quarterback 26. He has a super low ceiling because he got benched last year, but then he's a pretty high upside because he can rush the ball, and he also has a pretty good offensive line. He has Fournette. I don't know. I have mixed opinions about him. He has Chark and Chanel. So it's not like he doesn't have weapons. So he could put together a few really, really good weeks that you could stream quarterbacks with.
Yeah, he really could, and you gotta love his energy. And there are some weeks he, like you said, he could just carry the team to victory with 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Who's your quarterback? 22.
I think I put 2 quarterbacks accidentally at 22. Taylor's my quarterback 22 and Locke's 21.
Oh, all right.
Who's yours?
That's Big Ben.
Yeah, and then
to me, his ADP at 128 is just way too high for me. I personally wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Who's your quarterback 23?
Tannehill.
Yeah, I have Jimmy G. But I don't know, at this point, I think the range of 17 to 23, they're all pretty stable backup quarterbacks. So I don't think any one of them is going to be really bad, and I don't think any one of them is going to break out though.
Yeah, I have Garoppolo at 17 through Tannehill at 23 in their own tier, and they all are relatively safe, except for Big Ben, who could just play only 3 games this season, and Burrow, who's got a pretty high upside because he's just incredible.
Who is your 23? Yeah, who's your quarterback 23? I have
Tannehill's my 23. I have a tier gap to 24.
My quarterback 23 is Jimmy G. And I guess we talked about that already.
Yeah.
Who's your 24?
Tier gap and then Derek Carr.
I'll have him there too as well.
Yeah.
He's a super consistent quarterback. He's finished every year inside the top 20. The only thing that limited him was his touchdowns. But now that he got Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards, who I'm super high on, I think that's going to go up. So he's one of the best backup solid quarterbacks.
Yeah. And he with the touchdowns, you would expect that to go up just from sheer luck almost. Mm-hmm. And with better weapons like Henry Ruggs, add a bit of a deep threat on play actions, that'll help for sure. I don't think Derek Carr, how many pass attempts did he have last season? I'm pretty sure he didn't have a lot. Maybe barely 500. And there's almost talk that the Raiders might want to move on from him.
Yeah, that they signed Mariota. He's the highest paid backup in the league. 513 pass attempts last year.
Among starters, that's not a lot. So, and we know the Raiders with John Gruden, they'll want to run the ball with Josh Jacobs, which they should. But again, like we talked about with, Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins, it might decrease their volume, how many times they'll be asked to throw the ball. So it'll decrease their upside, but I think it will overall increase their efficiency.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to find where he was 14th in pass attempts last year.
Really?
Yeah. He was 14th next to Fitzpatrick and Trubisky. What are we at? 24 or 25?
Who's your 20? Oh no, we're 25.
I have Phillip Rivers. I mean, at this point, I want to make it clear that don't draft any of these quarterbacks at all. They're not worth it, except maybe in super flex leagues. But Otherwise, they should be on the waiver wire. But like, age is finally caught up to him. He had a bad season last year, and then I think in addition, he has a downgrade with offensive weapons. He's going from Keenan Allen to T.Y. Hilton, and then but he has a better offensive line, which may help him.
Yeah, again, I really like his O line, and Rivers. I feel will. I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last year. But that being said, I don't see him being much better fantasy wise. I think he'll just be more that field general again, almost Peyton Manning in his final year at Denver, where doesn't kind of a noodle arm, but he'll direct traffic on the field and just make life easier for himself with how smart he is.
Mm-hmm.
I was my quarterback 26, which again, pretty much below Derek Carr. You wouldn't draft these guys in a one quarterback league. Just pick them up off the waiver wire if Deshaun Watson gets hurt or something.
I think at this point we're at the place where like it doesn't really matter. If you're at the point where you're drafting them, you kind of screwed up.
Yeah.
My quarterback 26 was Gardner Minshew, as you mentioned above, but he has a higher ceiling than most of these other quarterbacks. So like he could be worth a late round flyer, especially in deeper leagues.
Yeah. With his ADP at around 182, that's good value upside. So yeah, as my quarterback. Now to my quarterback 25, I have Sam Darnold.
Okay.
I thought he was going to be really good coming out. He hasn't really reached that, and he's almost entering the Jameis Winston territory of inconsistency.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Darnold. I have him as my quarterback. I would say 28. He's a horrible coach in Gase, and he doesn't have much weapons. But like, it's actually kind of surprising. He has better statistics passing wise than Josh Allen. It's like he's not that bad of a quarterback in real life, honestly.
Yeah, he isn't, and his offensive line was miserable last season, just atrocious. They added Mekhi Becton, the just human freak tackle out of Louisville, which I think will help. And I remember they paid George Fant a lot of money, though he played more tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But with a better offensive line, I think Darnold will be better. And I'm a little worried about him losing Robbie Anderson because he seemed to be his only trustworthy target.
They have Crowder and like Mims, but I think Mims got hurt anyway.
Mims got hurt?
I think so.
Let me see.
I think it was his hamstring.
Yeah, he's injured.
Yeah,
it's a hamstring. I don't think it's not anything major.
No, yeah, he'll probably be ready in a few weeks.
Yeah. So Darnold, I would take a flyer on him personally, just because of his high upside, and he does really have the sort of physical tools. He reminds me of a poor man's Andrew Luck.
That's true. I mean, really poor though.
I mean, I could see him getting there. He, like with Andrew Luck and Sam Darnold, they both threw some pretty boneheaded picks, even on their best days. But Sam is a playmaker still. I mean, he's pretty much had to be with that offensive line.
So my next quarterback, who is it? I would probably say Teddy Bridgewater. He's just a game manager, nothing special. He has Christian McCaffrey to worry about, and it's like he's a solid bye week quarterback, but that's it.
Yeah, that's the same. You're talking. He's basically almost the same fantasy wise as Derek Carr. No, almost barely any upside. The system the Panthers running will, I think, be more pass heavy because it is Matt Rule from the Big 12.
That's true, but
again, Teddy is just a game manager. We know what he is. If you got a quarterback on a bye week, pick him up, but don't draft him.
I guess he would be next. I guess maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, at this point, I don't really have set rankings. They're all untouchable to me. I would never pick them up.
Me neither. I'm just spitballing some potential deep sleepers. who could be quarterback twos. That way you don't have to spend a pick on them. You can get some depth at skill positions and see if any of these guys make it out of the draft, and you can pick them up then.
Yeah. I know we were both pretty high on Jarrett Stidham, but I've cooled off a bit. What do you think about him?
From what I've heard, the Patriots might run a quarterback platoon, which, I mean,
is that just like
just
like rotate quarterbacks or something?
Yeah, so apparently from sportingnews.com, Bill Belichick refused to rule out the possibility of the Patriots using a platoon system at quarterback in the opening weeks of the season.
He's crazy.
I mean, it's Bill Belichick. He's going to make magic happen. If it's a platoon, obviously stay away from both of them, both Newton and Stidham. But I like Stidham, actually. He kind of reminds me of a Jimmy Garoppolo.
I know that I don't know if this is serious, but I heard he got sent to the hospital for tests at practice or something from his hip. I'm just reading a tweet. He's not at 100% for several weeks.
He's for a few weeks due to hip injury. He's back though, but he might get healthy. So then they might start Cam for the first couple weeks, but we'll see. But I felt a lot better about Stidham, obviously, before they signed Cam, when you knew who was going to be the Patriots' full-time starter.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, that's the rankings that I have. But you want to talk about, like, I guess, quarterback draft strategy, like where you draft them?
I just rattled off a couple sleepers on the other teams I haven't covered yet. So Fitzpatrick and Tua on the Dolphins. Again, you reach the point where there isn't even a clear starter. Mm-hmm. The same with Trubisky, Foles. I think Trubisky starts. Matt Nagy gets tired of his shtick. They bench him. Foles comes in and is marginally better. Yeah. And the last one, Dwayne Haskins. He might be worth a flyer just because he was a first-round pick last year, but he didn't look very good. He showed some growth last year from being completely terrible to a borderline backup quarterback.
It's gonna be it's rough because he has no running back. He has one wide receiver.
Yeah,
tight end at all. He's in a terrible situation.
Yeah. So that's it for quarterbacks. So we can talk strategy.
So yeah, I guess what I usually do for strategy is, obviously, if like Mahomes or Jackson falls to like the third round, I'll take them there. Same with Murray or Prescott. If they fall like the 6th or 7th round, I'll take them there. But generally, I wait till like the 10th or 11th round after I draft all my starters. Maybe not my tight end, and sometimes a few bench pieces. I don't want to reach in a quarterback at all, just because I have to fill them out. But usually, I get someone like Wentz or I guess Allen or Stafford in those rounds. I don't know. I don't usually get backup quarterbacks just because of the roster space they take up. I'm more fine with just adding someone on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm okay with taking a quarterback who has a really high upside in the later rounds, which is why I like Drew Lock a lot fantasy-wise. The trend of second-year quarterbacks taking over the league and winning MVP. And I like Kyler Murray for that same reason, but Kyler obviously won't make it out of the draft. But if you're talking quarterback, since it's such a replaceable position, you don't want a safe Derek Carr. You don't want a safe Jimmy Garoppolo. You do kind of want to shoot for the stars.
Yeah, who are some of those quarterbacks who would you get as like a boom or bust type player?
Drew Lock for sure.
Mm-hmm.
As a boom or as just a boom player, Kyler Murray, because I don't think Kyler Murray's going to bust because he showed he was really good last season, and he could be even better this season.
Do you think that there's going to be like last year's version of Lamar Jackson, like someone who's going in the 11th round, who's going to be like a top 10 or even a top 5 quarterback?
I think that guy might be Drew Lock. If it's going to happen this year, I think it is Drew Lock.
I don't know. I think that like if it's going to happen, it'll be Taylor Lock, but I don't think it's going to happen ever again.
I think it actually has seemed to happen the last 2 years. In 2018 with Mahomes, and last year with Lamar. So taking I'm all for taking late round flyers on second year quarterbacks with a ton of physical upside.
So I guess who are the second year quarterbacks in the NFL? It's Locke, Jones,
Kyler,
Kyler, um,
Danny Dimes fumbling issues. I'm really gonna have to get over, but
yeah, I don't know. I think
they're killing me.
he could be. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he has top 5 upside, but maybe. Yeah, I don't know of him, but he could be the only one, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Other second year quarterbacks, Dwayne Haskins, but
no,
what Haskins showed last season.
top 10.
Yeah. Just
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll have a new episode soon. But yeah.
yeah. Thanks.